Stories Between Us anthology, where Black queer men's lives, love, and tension take center stage. The trip was already booked, and that's how Theo knows he waited too long. It was supposed to be a good thing, a couple's trip they both deserved. A long weekend away from work, responsibilities, and the noise of everyday life. William booked it with confidence, like it was obvious this was the next step. He said the hotel had a nice bathroom, a big bed, and enough space for them to relax. Theo smiled and agreed, because that's what he always does. But the moment William said the dates out loud, something inside Theo tightened. Because trips come with expectations. And Theo has always known how to meet expectations. He has always been the top in their relationship. Not just in bed, but in the way people talk about him, the way friends describe him, the way men look at him when they walk into a room. Being the top wasn't just something he did. It was something he was. It was his confidence. It was his certainty. It was knowing what to do without asking. With William, that role had never been questioned. William was a strict bottom and proud of it. He talked openly about his body, about preparation, about needing that extra hour of privacy in the bathroom before their bedroom fun. He never made it weird. Theo never had to think about it. Until now. The closer the trip gets, the louder the thought becomes. Theo wants to bottom. And wanting it doesn't feel like just a thought anymore. This isn't curiosity. This isn't a phase. This isn't something he can laugh off or push aside until it passes. The desire was weighing heavy on him, and the timing makes it impossible to ignore. Theo knows that going on this trip without saying anything would lock him back into a version of himself that already feels outdated. It feels like a rare chance to change the rhythm of their intimacy. Theo liked topping because it gave him order. It gave him direction. As a Black gay man, certainty kept him safe. Being the one in control meant he didn't have to explain himself, didn't have to negotiate his masculinity, didn't have to admit to wanting something he didn't already understand. But over time, that certainty started to feel less like confidence and more like habit. And once the role stopped feeling like a choice, curiosity crept in as a quiet question he had never allowed himself to ask. What would it feel like to let go of control without losing himself? He has lived comfortably inside that expectation. But William doesn't live there. William moves through intimacy with ease. He talks about bottoming the way other people talk about errands they have to run. He mentions needing supplies before the trip without lowering his voice. He jokes about timing and planning out his meals in order to be ready. Theo nods along, pretending he understands exactly what William means. Pretending he knows how it works. Pretending he isn't acutely aware of how much labor William has been carrying quietly for years. That awareness makes him uncomfortable in a way he doesn't know how to joke his way out of. They pack together the night before they leave. Clothes folded neatly, toiletries lined up. William is already thinking about outfits and space and comfort. Theo watches him, realizing that William is preparing for something Theo hasn't even admitted he wants. That night, Theo lies awake next to William, staring at the ceiling. He thinks about how strange it is that they have shared bodies so easily, shared space so completely, but have never talked about this. He thinks about how little language men like them are given for moments like this. He thinks about how often silence gets passed down as strength, and he knows something has to change. By the night before the trip, Theo is done pretending the desire is subtle. They're out to dinner, not anywhere special. Just a place close enough to home that neither of them dressed up. Their bags are already packed in the trunk. The trip feels real now, unavoidable. William is relaxed, talking about the drive and when they should leave in the morning, and how good it's going to feel to be away. Theo listens, nods, responds at the right moments. But he isn't really there. The desire has stopped waiting for permission. It's been sitting with him all day, heavy and impatient. That's when Theo knows he can't take another bite of food without lying. He puts his fork down and sees William's name. William looks up immediately. Theo doesn't ease into it. He doesn't joke. He tells William that the trip has made him realize he wants to try something different. He says being away from home feels like a chance to change the sex they have without it turning into a bigger thing than it needs to be. He says he's been thinking about it for a while. William doesn't interrupt. He listens closely, eyes steady, attention fully on Theo. Theo tells him he wants to bottom. The word sits on the table between them. William studies him for a moment, then nods. He tells Theo he's glad he said something now instead of pretending all weekend. He tells him that wanting something different doesn't make him less of who he is. It just means he's being honest. Then William says the practical part, the part Theo has been dreading and waiting for at the same time. He says that if Theo wants to do this, they need to talk about preparation. Theo feels his chest tighten again. He nods, even though his stomach flips. He asks William quietly but clearly if he can teach him how to clean out to bottom. William chuckles a little, but he doesn't tease. He tells Theo they'll talk about it when they get home. And for the first time all night, Theo exhales. When they get home from dinner, they don't ease into anything. They put their keys down. They kick off their shoes. Theo takes a breath like he's about to give a presentation he didn't prepare for. William watches him for a second, then says they should start now, before Theo has time to talk himself out of it. That's how Theo ends up standing in the bathroom, staring at the toilet, trying not to look betrayed by his own life choices. William doesn't make it weird. He explains things plainly. He doesn't rush. He talks the way someone does when they've done this before and knows panic won't help. Theo listens hard and immediately starts overthinking everything. He asks if it's working. William tells him yes. Theo does not believe him. 5 minutes later, Theo asks again. William tells him again that yes, it's working. Theo asks what working actually means. William tells him to stop interrogating his body like it's a machine. Theo mutters that nobody ever talks about this part. William agrees and says that's because most men don't want to admit they had to learn it. Some of it is uncomfortable. Not painful, just awkward. Theo keeps bracing for something to go wrong. William keeps telling him that nothing is going wrong and that waiting is part of the process. At one point, Theo announces that he thinks he messed up. William looks at him and says, he hasn't. Theo asks how William is so sure. William tells him because he's been doing this long enough to know the difference between nerves and actual problems. Eventually, William reaches out and puts his hand on Theo's shoulder, just to let him know he's not alone in it. That's when Theo realizes the hardest part isn't what he's doing. It's letting someone else guide him through it without trying to stay in control. When it's done, it's done. Theo sits on the edge of the tub, tired and quiet. William hands him a towel. Theo says, "Thank you," like he means it. Instead of heading straight to bed, Theo looks at William half serious, half smiling, and asks if he wants to eat his ass since it's squeaky clean now. William laughs at first, the kind of laugh that releases the tension. Theo shrugs, grins, and tells him they might as well enjoy the results of all that preparation. They don't rush it. They don't make a big deal out of it. They share a moment that feels earned and surprisingly light. Afterward, they finally go to bed. Theo sleeps deeper than he expects to. Away on vacation, things feel different immediately. Theo doesn't feel like he has to perform. He's surprised by how natural that feels once he stops resisting it. He's good at bottoming. That surprises him. William is surprised too. William didn't expect to enjoy topping. He thought it would feel awkward or forced or like something he was doing just to be supportive. Instead, it felt good. It unlocked a desire he didn't even know he had himself. They come home knowing more about each other than they did before they left. What changes for them is how easily they talk about what they want. How quickly they notice when something feels off. How much less guessing there is between them. Thank you for listening to Stories Between Us Anthology. You can find every episode on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Rate the show and leave a comment. It helps more people find us.